Let me see. Let's see if it's up and running. I say hello, everybody. Hopefully, this is up and running. And yes, it is. I can see myself. All right, everybody. Well, we're back with another episode of To a Woman's Heart, where we encourage, motivate, uplift, and empower. And I hope the other video played. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if anybody is trying to get into this live stream and you're not a member, please chime in on YouTube. Let everybody know. Please chime in on YouTube or Twitter. That would be your best way to get in to watch the live stream. The only way you can watch it on Facebook is you have to be a member. All right. So I am Renee, and I have with me tonight Courtney. And as you all know, the title of this is The Voice of a Child. And so in conversation, we know kids are very impactful, especially coming from a young age, and what you say and what you speak into their lives can have great impact as they go forward in their lives. And so I know parents don't come with instruction books. Nobody come with an instruction book. So you learn as you go. But it's some conversation that needs to be had, because I think sometimes we don't think about our words and how impactful our words are to our children. So I'm going to let Courtney step in and introduce herself, and then we can start off with the conversation.
I'm Courtney. I'm 24. I work with kids between 6 weeks to 11 years old. And I am currently still getting my bachelor's degree. And my degree will be in juvenile justice, working with at-risk youth and different things like that. So I just wanted to kind of share some of the experiences that I've had between being in college and different internships and stuff like that.
Okay, so how do we get to this point, Courtney? When we was talking about the voice of a child, what do you see as working with youth with behavioral issues? What are some of the concerns?
So I think that some things that I've seen along the way, different things that parents say to their children as far as like starting them off in the day. So you can always tell when a child is happy when they first come in the morning. You can always tell when they're upset or if they feel a certain type of way about themselves. Normally, if a child calls themselves stupid or they say, I'm not smart or I can't do this or stuff like that, you always wonder, like, why do they think that? Because you can have different struggles as a child, especially when it comes to, schoolwork and stuff like that. But I think that when a child has confidence in themselves to know that they can get help, I think sometimes it can start at home.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a Facebook post a while back that said something about like parents, you start your children's day off in the morning. And I personally felt that was true.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what you can say to your child can reflect on how their day might go about for the rest of the day. So if you say,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, you're going to have a great day, you're going to have a prosperous day,
Mm-hmm.
I love you, you're going to be great, rather
Mm-hmm.
than, get it together, or rather than you're not going to do this, or you act like this all the time, or this is what you are, that can be different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also think that discipline and verbal abuse are two different things. So you can tell your child, go have a good day, don't act up, but you can also say, you know what, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about, how sometimes how you end things as well too. It's the context of the conversation, I guess I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when I worked in the center in the city with young kids, it does not only come from parents, but it also comes from teachers or
Absolutely.
anybody they come in contact with. And some of the young ladies, the younger girls, she said that her teacher told her that she was stupid
Mm-hmm.
and that she would never be anything in
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
And she came to the after school program, and it weighed heavily on her, but you can tell in her
Mhm.
demeanor that it
Yeah.
took something from her
Right.
with receiving that information. You
Right.
follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so our words are very cutting. They're
Yeah.
very cutting, and they
Yeah.
do have impact on
Mhm.
those children when you speak that into them. And a couple of stars have attested to, when they
Mhm.
was younger and in school, how the teacher
Mhm.
said, "You ain't gonna never be nothing. You're not gonna make it. You're
Mhm.
not gonna do this," and they end
Mhm.
up being what they said it was not going
Right.
to be.
Right.
So you're right to feed your children affirmation
Mhm.
on a daily
Yep.
basis just to get their day starts makes a difference.
Mhm.
And whatever you're pressured in life should not reflect on that child because that
Right.
child is innocent.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. So what something that I do with my kids every day when they come in, I ask them how you doing. We make a joke. I ask them if they need anything, but mostly I ask them what type of day are we gonna have? What type of day do you want to have? And they say, well, you know what? I had this type of day yesterday, so I want to strive for this type of day today, and we go from there. And throughout the
Right,
day, we have different goals that we set. Okay, well, we're right here right now. We're at this point right now. You're doing good right now. Let's keep it up. Okay, well, we don't have a bad day so far. What can I do to help you as your teacher to have a better day? Do I need to move your seat? Do I need to have you do this activity instead? So I give out classroom jobs as well. So I say, you know what? We having this type of day. So you're going to be in charge of this. You know
right,
what I'm saying? Different things. There are different methods for different children.
right.
And I think that, especially as teachers, as, primary caregivers, it is also our job to help the students where they need help at. You know what I'm saying? If they're
Mm,
lacking this, if they're lacking that, mandate reports. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you might feel some type of way about a child or even about their parents, but it's not our job to speak on that to the child. It's our job to make sure our kids get everything they need within our care.
right. But you know what? The system, sometimes parents think that the teacher should raise the child and teach
Right.
the child at the
Right.
same time. And that's
Mhm.
not how that should be. You can't
Right.
raise the child and teach the child. So you're putting a burden on the teacher
Right.
that should not be on
Right.
that teacher. You
Right.
follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, and then we look at when these kids are put in a position to feed all this negativity.
Mhm. Yeah.
And even when they change classrooms, so you may be
Mhm.
the teacher they get now that
Right.
understand why they
Right.
react the way they
Right.
do, or why they push
Right.
back, or why they're
Mhm.
angry or stuff. But when they
Yep.
move to the next classroom,
Right.
that teacher may not have no idea.
Right.
And
Right.
hence why these kids end up on the medication. Um,
Mhm.
what's the popular medication they put kids on
Mhm.
to try to keep them calm? And it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
about the medication. It's
Right.
about the words that's being fed to them before
Right.
they get to their destination.
Right. Mhm. And a lot of it takes a lot of patience too. And I think that it takes a person to be able to work with kids effectively. I'll say that. Because yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's about how what you say, and a lot of times it's I think it goes both ways. It's not how you say it; it's what you say, and it's also not what you say; it's how you say it. It can go both ways because you can tell the child, "Hey, sit down," but it's about how you say it. It's about your
Right,
delivery too sometimes. So I
right.
definitely agree, and I think that the parents, you are your child's first parent. You're your child's first teacher. I should
Hmm.
say. It's not the teacher's job to, raise your child. It's the teacher's job to teach them different things and take them to the next level. But it is the parent's job to be their first teacher. I have given you
Hmm.
these tools to start you off, but now this teacher can help you expand what I am trying to teach you.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's not only about conversation, just speaking it. It's also about
Hmm.
showing it so
Yeah.
the child can feel it. Because
Right.
you can say "I love you" to a child, but if you never
Hmm.
show that child that you actually love
Yep.
them,
Hmm.
you kind of cancel out your words
Hmm.
with saying that you love the child, but your
Hmm.
actions shows that you don't love the child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's very true. I definitely agree. And I think, like I said too earlier, I think a lot of times, teachers, I won't say parents because I'm not a parent, but teachers, we confuse discipline with other things. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I think we go a little bit too hard on kids when, you know what I'm saying, like if our day is going bad, we take that on the child. And a
Right.
kid can very much so have behavior issues, but at the same time, you can't just totally discredit them as a child, you know, because they're
Right.
kids. Kids gonna
Right.
make mistakes because adults make mistakes all the time. And I
Right.
think that it's different from, you know what, now you just time out. So we do something that we do is okay, you have 3 strikes. Now you
Mm-hmm.
reach your third limit, so now we're gonna go ahead and have a timeout for the rest of the day. But
Mm-hmm.
it's levels to different things, and I think that discipline too, it should be levels to that too. You can't just say, you know what, you did it, so I'm just gonna do this to you. You know what I'm saying? Take some time. Okay, this is a step. Now we're at the next step. Okay, we're at the final straw. Certain things like that. I don't think that it shouldn't go to the extreme on every
Right.
occasion,
Right.
not on
Right.
every situation. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Um, and I do think it is important for kids to know, like, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean
Right.
you're not smart. You know what I'm saying? I think that's
Right.
a lot of different things that I've seen from, you know, being in college up until now through different things and stuff like that. A lot of kids have said, you know what, I don't understand that, so I feel like I'm stupid.
Right.
No, it's gonna take you a little bit. It's gonna take you a little minute, a different route to get to a certain way. For
Right.
my situation, I've been in college for 5 6 years. I'm still gonna get there. It should take me a little bit longer to get there.
But everybody has a learning curve, and no
Hmm.
two people learn the same way,
Right.
which is what we need to understand. See, we learn how we box people in because you're
Hmm.
supposed to fit inside this certain
Right.
criteria, and that
Right.
criteria that you have set up don't work
Right.
for everybody. It
Absolutely.
doesn't. If there's a
Absolutely.
such thing as dyslexia, kids with
Yeah.
dyslexia
Hmm.
learn backwards. You
Yep.
may learn left to right, and they may learn right to left, but
Yep.
that doesn't make them any less of a person when
Hmm.
it comes down to education and learning. And I think in our mentality, we have to look at that. And
Right.
again, I say this too, when we see our kids are not progressing like they should.
Hmm.
And sometimes parents don't take the time that they need to take
Right.
with these
Hmm.
children. And then you take them to the doctor and you make it a medical issue, but it's
Hmm.
not a medical issue.
Right.
It's
Right. That's
a
true.
time management
This is
thing.
very
They
true.
want your attention.
That's very true. That is very true. And you can always tell when a child wants attention, you know, versus if they have it and they're okay. You can always tell when because they're kids. Again, you know how kids operate. You know what I'm saying? And kids also hear everything. Even
Right,
when they think you think we're not listening, they're listening to everything you talk about, everything you say. You think you could be whispering something. If I say, you know what, oh, this, that, they can come back and repeat to me the entire conversation. So it is
mm-hmm.
about, you know, a lot of the attention and a lot of the time management with different things like that. And it goes to both ends, like you said, parents and teachers as well. It takes time and patience to work with the child. Um, you just have to be very careful when it comes to children. Very
You
careful.
do, you do. And in China, they start teaching their kids early
Hmm.
at a young age.
Hmm.
But sometimes we spend our time focused on other things instead
Hmm.
of the child. You
Right.
follow what I'm saying? We
Right.
leave our children to fend for themselves like they don't matter.
Right.
And what you start off
Hmm.
ingraining in them as a young age will affect them later down doing life.
Right.
So if you start off, and I've seen this in the streets, and I'm sure other people can attest to
Hmm.
this, you see mothers walking down the street and they're literally, because the child is a 3-year old and their legs don't move as quick as the mother's
Hmm.
legs, they immediately cuss him out, call him out little MFers
Hmm.
and all this
Right.
stuff. You find what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Now, those words are very impactful.
Hmm.
They're very
Yeah.
impactful, but you're not thinking
Right.
about how your words are resonating
Right.
inside that child.
Right. Right. I agree. I agree. I think that it's all about thinking a lot too before we speak. You know what I'm saying? Or even going back to say, you know what, that was not okay of me. I could handle that a little bit differently. I think it also might be a pride thing too. You know what? I was wrong as a parent or I was wrong as a teacher, I'll say. And you know what I'm saying? It's okay to admit that you're wrong. You could have handled it a little bit differently. You know what I'm saying? I think that sometimes as people in general, we don't think about things that come out of our mouths. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it's too late, it's like, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have did that, or, you know, how could I have went about that differently? And
Right.
that's something we have to think about too, about things that we say. Think before we speak. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you never know what your words can do to a person in general, but especially to a child, because kids remember everything.
They do. And
Everything.
it leaves a long lasting impression. And
Mhm.
like we was talking earlier, verbal abuse
Mhm. Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
hurtful, is
Very
very
hurtful.
cutting.
Very
Um,
hurtful.
and when you use those type of words with your children,
Mhm.
they don't know how to have relationships because we
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
when people get to be adults, they just happen to be that way overnight.
Yeah.
But if you
Mm-mm.
check back through the lines of history, you
Mhm.
will find that
Yeah.
verbal abuse as they came up as a child was
Mhm.
the norm for
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
so as they grow into being an adult,
Mhm.
then they think verbal abuse is the
It's
norm. This is the
okay.
way in which you
Right.
show me your love. And
Mhm.
that's not love.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree. That's very true, and I think that everything that somebody goes through, or there's a reason behind everything that somebody does, and I think that everyone has different issues they deal with, whether they talk about it or not. And everything that somebody does has a story behind it. It might be a small story, or it might be small to you, or it might be big to them, but they still have a story, and that's definitely true. Things like adults, they don't get here overnight, and things they went through don't just happen overnight, like you said. So there's something, if you have issues with a relationship or how you feel about yourself, something happened when you were a child or when you were growing up that makes you feel that way about different people or even yourself. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely agree on that too. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about as well, especially in the black community, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am a firm believer in, admitting when you're not okay. It's okay to admit when you're not okay.
Right.
And I think that kids don't have that advantage like
Mm-hmm.
adults do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like kids might feel like, if I say this, then I'm going to get in trouble. If I say I'm not okay, then it's going to be a problem, or I'm going to be looked at weird, even by their peers. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like boys, for instance, they don't like to cry because
Mm-hmm.
they feel that if I cry, I'm weak. Or if I cry, then I'm being a girl. You know what I'm saying? So I think that different things like that let kids be kids. Because when they get older, it'll help them be better with certain situations and not make them feel some type of way.
Right. But sometimes we as adults, um, when a child say something and the
Hmm.
first thing they say, you don't know now, you a child.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
But
That's
that's
true.
not true
Yeah, yeah.
all the
That is
time.
not true.
They
Mhm.
are addressing their feelings of how they're
Mhm.
feeling with something,
Mhm.
and we turn around as an adult and we negate those
Right.
feelings
Mhm.
like they don't matter. And
Yeah.
then when they get a little older, then we as
Mhm.
adults want to tell, like, well, you can come and talk to me about anything. But when I
Right.
came to you with that one
Mhm.
situation
Yeah.
that was maybe not important to you, but it was very important to me,
Right. Yeah.
you pushed me away.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so we as parents have to create an environment
Mhm.
that we're not saying that you have to be your kid's friend, but you
Right.
have to create a comfort zone where
Right.
they feel
Right.
safe with you
Right.
with sharing things.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's true too. And then even to go back to, you know, how kids see things. If I'm doing something, I might think they're looking up to me, but kids look up to adults. They follow patterns of what they see.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I seen this person do this, so I'm gonna do it too. Even though it might not seem cool, they're kids. So if
Right.
they see me combing my hair, they're gonna comb their hair. Or if they see me putting on lip gloss, they're gonna put on lip gloss. They see me doing, certain things, they're gonna do those same things because they're kids.
Right.
So I think we have to be very careful as people in general about what we do and what we say. Because if a child is coming on cursing, they got it from either the home or they got it from TV. They got it from
Hmm.
social media.
Hmm.
Kids take after everything. And it's not intentional. I don't think it's a lot of things are intentional. It might be harmless, but
Hmm.
we still have to think like, you know what, this is a child. So even at
Right.
the age of 2, they can still pick up things super quickly. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, what we feed into kids or even what we feed into our own lives can reflect on what that child's going to pick up and how they're going to live their life too.
Right. But sometimes we need to understand in the environment in which we live in, some conversations we don't want to touch on. And we
Right.
have to touch on it because
Mm-hmm.
it's better for the parent to teach the child than somebody else teach the
Mm-hmm.
child the wrong way. And a
Right.
lot of parents where sexual conversations, where
Mm-hmm.
it is the same sex conversation, where
Mm-hmm.
it's
Right.
dating, whatever it may be, because inside those walls of the schools, all
Right.
kinds of things are
Are
going
happening.
on. And
Yeah.
we as parents, we pull back on some things. And that's when we have to push forward and
Mm-hmm.
talk about these things. And they need to hear it from you as the
Yeah.
parent
Yeah.
versus learning it from somebody else. So here's a
Yeah.
question. Here's
Mm-hmm.
a question. The question is, as a teacher or leader, how can we help verbal abuse children without offending parents?
Um, that's a hard one for me per se, because I think that for myself, I never want to offend a parent. I never want a parent to feel like I'm overstepping. I never want a parent to feel like I'm insulting them or insulting their parenting. Um, so a lot of times I think that what we could do is start off with a compliment to parents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just say, hey, I observed this,
Mm-hmm.
or I observed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation. I told them, you know what, you're smart. If you
Mm-hmm.
need help with schoolwork, let me know. So I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes, from different experiences that I have experienced, I think that for me, I started the conversation. You know what, this is the type of day we had, but
Mm-hmm.
we haven't had days like this before.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's happening, but maybe if you talk to them, because you're
Mm-hmm.
you're the mom or your dad, they'll
Mm-hmm.
let you know before they'll let me know. But
Mm-hmm.
I did tell them, you know what, you're smart. You can do anything you put your mind to. We just had a rough day. So I
Mm-hmm.
think trying to smooth it over first and
Mm-hmm.
then ease into it, but then come back with another smooth over conversation, maybe that can help. And then for me, because I'm not a supervisor, if I see something that I don't like per se, I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, hey, Miss So and So, I think that you should have a conversation and then let them deal with that. Because I never want
Right.
to overstep, my position as a teacher, and some experience that I haven't had as many experiences with parents
Mm-hmm.
and with students like
Mm-hmm.
they have. So for me personally, that's kind of how I do things. I never just come at a parent full force, like, you know what, this. Oh, you must be doing this to a child, because that's not my place.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of again, like I tell my kids as well. It's all about how you say things too. So I
Mm-hmm.
never want to show them an example, an opposite example of what I'm doing. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? From what I'm teaching them. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how I feel.
Yeah, but I've experienced on the after school program side where the parents come in already with the fight in them
Yeah.
about their
Yeah.
child because
Mhm.
you have told them that the child has been acting up and they come
Right.
in there being
Right.
very defensive.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to make that parent inclusive and
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
take the parent from the conversation from the
Right.
kids so they won't be
Right.
sitting in the middle of it
Right.
and then
Mhm.
say to the parent, we're not saying, we're
Right.
just trying to figure out how we
Right.
can come
Help.
to a compromise
Yeah.
that we can fix it, that we
Mhm.
can work with the child. We all get
Yeah.
the result that we need to get
Right.
from the child. And usually, when you make them feel inclusive instead of
Mhm.
combative back and forth
Yeah.
with the parent,
Yeah.
they usually come down. Now, you're not approaching them
Yeah.
as an attack mode,
Right.
but what you're
Right.
saying to it, look, we see this a problem. So we
Yeah.
want to work, let's
Right.
work together and
Right.
see
What
how
can
we
I
can
do?
help the child.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the best solution to me. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't take that approach. So if
Right.
a parent come in,
Mhm.
the first thing they say, uh, my child ain't bad, and then the
Right.
other adult respond back, your
Right.
child is bad, and that
Exactly.
don't
Nothing's
help
gonna
the
get
child.
resolved. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
help the child. It just
Yeah.
create a bigger problem. That's
Yeah.
what that does. So here's the next question. It says, how do we correct or educate adults bad behavior when that's all they've been taught?
Hmm. Um. I think that also is a iffy one as well. Um. I think that what we could do is, again, so kids love scenarios. Kids love
Mm-hmm.
stories. Kids love different ways to do things. So a lot of times we use hoots. We use, okay, you know what? How could we ask kids? What do you think? How could they have handled the situation better? Instead of saying, you know what, you could have done better. Ask them, you know what, how could you have done this better? Or how do you think it will be better? What can I do to help you? Or what do you think? So I think asking the child what they think or what they want, I think that can go a long way too. Because even though that's all they know, I think that with the right approach, you can break anything.
Right.
With the right approach, you can change anything with the right
Mm-hmm.
approach, with the right, avenue. I think that asking the child, you know what do you want? How do you see? And kids tell it all. It's one thing to kids tell it all. They'll tell you, you know what, I got this from home.
Right.
I learned this from home.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she says at home, or this is what I saw on the internet. So I think that you can an approach you can ask kids, you know what? Do you think there could be a better solution for that? Or if you say, okay, well, Becky did this, take the same scenario that happened with them and say, well, so and so did this. What could you think they have done differently? They say, well,
Mm-hmm.
they could have done this. I say, okay, you know what? You could have did that though.
Right.
Well, you
Or
could have done that.
you could ask the parent to take part in role play. You
Yeah.
follow what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Sometimes
Mhm.
you have to get the parent to understand on the reverse. Because some
Yeah.
parents you can talk to till you black and blue and they
Yeah.
still won't see their
Right.
faults because
Mhm.
it's ingrained in them and
Right.
it has become a lifestyle. Not
Right.
just a habit, but it's their
Yeah.
lifestyle. And they don't even
Personal
know how
purpose.
to fix it. But
Yeah.
sometimes kids can correct the
Yeah.
parent. You follow what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They can
Mhm.
create that awareness. So if you flip it, and you
Mhm.
do the role play
Yeah.
and you say, okay, these are the issues and this is how Bobby is reacting. So
Mhm.
we're teaching Bobby how to do A, B, C, and D. And we
Right.
want you as a parent to take a
Mhm.
part when Bobby feel like this certain way.
Right.
Now,
Right.
it has a twofold purpose. It helps Bobby and it's
Mhm.
teaching Bobby to respond
Yep.
differently, but it's also creating awareness for the
Mhm.
parents and their bad behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too a lot of times we as people, you know, we never notice when we're doing something, but until we see it on a different side. So we can say,
Hmm.
you know what, I will never do that to my child, or I'll never do that to my friend, or I'll never do that to this person. But then it's not, they say if I come to you and say, "Hey, Teresa, somebody did this to me,"
Hmm.
you could be so upset, they did this to you, but it's like, well, you do it to me too. So we can, like you said, flip it. Because you
Right.
might not notice what you're doing, but if it was the other way around, you're going to be like, you know what, I noticed that. Well, let's notice it within ourselves too. We have to mirror and look at ourselves in the mirror too. So I
Exactly.
think that's a good one too.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to. So there was a comment. It says, I think it's equally as important for parents to ensure that they create a positive community for their kids, like extended family members, friends, mentors, etc. Because sometimes children take the advice of a third person
Yeah.
faster than the parents. So keeping a solid positive circle is helpful. And that's true. So you have
Mhm.
to be careful of who your children are around because they are
Absolutely.
just as impactful.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Um, because if you have somebody that, is totally on one sided, then it's never going to work. You have to have somebody that can meet you in the middle and that can say, you know what, let me help you out, or this time you could have done that better, or can also check the child and also check the parent too.
Hmm.
On the same, so I agree. I
Yeah,
agree with that too.
but sometimes even when we was be in church and we would talk, had these conversations with your mom,
Mhm.
uh, like I say, when you create that community, like
Yeah.
Tammy was saying,
Yeah.
certain things you would tell your parent and certain things you're
Right.
not going to tell your
Right.
parent.
Right.
But if you have somebody that you trust, your
Mhm.
parent is assured that if
Mhm.
they go to you, that they're
Right.
going to give you the
Yeah.
proper guidance
Yeah.
that you need. And that community,
Yeah.
that village is
Yeah.
very important when you're
Yeah.
talking about kids
Yeah.
and what they're being fed,
Yeah.
far as life and how they should handle different things in life.
Right.
So I don't want nobody to be in my circle with my child. That if I'm
Right.
telling my child to respect your body as a whole, and then you
Yeah.
go tell my child, no, you need to sleep with Tom, Dick, Harry, Joe,
Right.
Bob, John, and everybody else. That's
Yeah.
kind of defeating the purpose.
Yeah, that's one thing I definitely appreciate my parents for never allowing anybody in my life that would harm me mentally or anything like that. They always were very protective about who came into my life and who didn't come into my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate my parents for that, because a lot of kids don't have that advantage. You know what I'm saying? My parents were very, and I never understood it as a kid, as a child. But now
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I understand, because you can't have everybody around kids,
You
and
can't.
I definitely appreciate my parents for that.
You,
Because you cannot have everyone around your child. You just can't. Even if they mean, even if they're harmless, you still can't, because people might say things and it might come out the wrong way and it might slip out, and that's not, you have to just be very careful when it comes to kids. So you're definitely right. It takes a village to raise a child, but it's all about what type of village is raising your
exactly.
child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to, kids speak verbally and they speak in silence. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so we as parents, we as teachers, we as caregivers,
Hmm.
we as concerned for the children should listen to the voice of a
Yeah.
child, whether they
Yeah.
speak it openly or they
Hmm.
speak it in silence. And what I
Yeah.
mean by speaking in silence is demeanor,
Right.
body language, facial
Right.
expressions about certain things that sometimes we as parents or adults, period, we look over
Right.
because
Yeah.
we feel like their voice
It
just
doesn't matter.
doesn't matter,
Hmm.
and it does.
Yeah. Or not even that it doesn't matter. I think that sometimes we think that it's disrespectful when a child, says certain things that we're not used to. Or like, for example, if a child say, you know what, I got a lot going on. We might, as people might, or as adults might say, what you got going on? You're a child.
Right,
But they might have a lot going on, because if you're not in their household, you don't know what's going on in their house. So it's not
right,
disrespectful for what they're saying. You can't just dismiss what they're saying. They might do have a lot. They might have a lot going on. So it's not, I'm
exactly,
saying, you can't just say, well, you're a child, you don't know, because that's
right,
not true. Because
right,
they probably do. If you're not in their household or you're not their parent, you don't know exactly what child has going on. Or, you know, even as teachers, as daycare instructors, we watch our kids, but kids have cliques, so they might be getting bullied and we don't know, stuff like
right,
that. So they might have a lot going on, or they might be going through some different things, because kids can go through things too. And I think that different age groups and different times, we might not understand everything the child goes through, because we went through some different things. So I
right.
think that a lot of times, like you said too, is generational curses as well. We have to break that cycle, because when you were younger, you might have went through some things, and your parent might have said the same thing to you. Or you're a child, and you
Right.
see yourself in the same exact thing. We got to break that, because we know what we went through as kids, and we know how we felt as children. So we have to put that into some perspective on how they might feel too.
Yeah. Children go through a lot of things now that we as parents are unaware of.
Hmm.
And bullying is one of them.
Yeah.
Sexual harassment is
Yeah.
another. You follow what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Hmm.
If a child live in an abusive home, they may be kids that fight because
Right.
that's all they know. You
Right.
follow what I'm saying? You don't know if a
Hmm.
child is coming to school hungry or not. And
Yeah.
that's not just in school, that's in
Hmm.
caregiving facilities.
Yeah.
We just don't know. When they say they got a
Absolutely.
lot going on, and like I say, the demeanor of kids, and to be, it is heartbreaking
Yeah.
to see children who suffers through.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they have no outlet,
Yeah.
especially a child that's hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the most heartbreaking thing ever in life. And
Yeah.
then you have the difficulties of approaching it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so kids then start saying da 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 da, you ain't
Yeah.
got no food,
Yeah.
you raggedy, your
Mhm.
clothes is dirty,
Right.
and that's
Right.
that's cruel. That's cruel treatment. But
Yeah.
they're not in control of what's happening at home. They're a
Right.
kid.
Kids. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure to take
Yeah.
on for a child.
Yeah. That that is, and it's very disheartening. And I think too, as caregivers and as daycare, workers and teachers, I think that what I've definitely learned within being in college and now, to be very observant. Um, and I have learned that it's better to say something about it, even if I'm turned out, even if I'm wrong. I feel like, okay, you know what? I feel like this might be happening. Could you check it out for me? You know what I'm
Right,
saying? If I'm wrong, then great. But it's better to be ahead of it than behind it. So if a
right.
child is hungry, we know that, they don't have any food at home. We're going to make sure we have more than enough for them to eat. We have
Hmm.
to be fair too, because again, it's not the child's fault.
Right,
So we have to make sure, here you go. You can
right.
have this, or you can have that. Or I think too, What I am grateful about my kids in particular, we don't really have a lot of the bullying situations, because I
Mm-hmm.
try to teach my kids, what, everybody is not as fortunate as we might be. So a lot of my kids are very protective over each other. You know what? Hey, Miss Cece, he need this. Hey, Miss Cece, they need that. They want some more. So I
Mm-hmm.
am grateful for, my staff and how we handle certain things because we try to make sure that our kids are okay.
Right.
They are they're what matters.
Yeah, and kids are very receptive when they know that somebody genuinely
Hmm.
cares for them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what we as adults, parents, teachers,
yeah,
friends, relatives, whatever it may be, we have to be more loving towards
yeah.
these children
Hmm.
because we look at their behavior issues,
Yeah,
we look at them being angry, and we think they just want to be angry. But a lot of
yeah,
these kids
yeah.
have a story
Hmm.
behind their temperament. And
Yeah.
so we have to look at that instead of reacting to their
Hmm.
actions
Yeah. Yep.
because they're
That's
dealing
very
with a lot.
true. Hmm.
They're,
Yep.
they're dealing with a lot. I had a
Yeah.
young girl when I was doing the summer camp program. Her mom had 4 kids.
Hmm.
And the issue was, first of all, they wasn't getting enough food. That was the first thing. The second thing was they didn't have no coats for winter. They was wearing in the wintertime sweaters and
Hmm.
windbreakers.
Okay.
And what really got me the most is this child had these gym shoes. You know them gym shoes that would just light up on your feet.
Yeah.
When you
Hmm.
walk, they lit up. They like the
Hmm. Yeah.
them Converse shoes.
Yeah.
They lit up. And
Yeah.
she loved these shoes. But when I tell you, I literally almost cried when her foot raised up and the 4 toes
Nervous.
was exposed and they was hitting the concrete
Yeah.
because she loved them shoes, but she didn't have no toes.
Right.
All the sole of the toes was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And so kids was teasing. So then to me, because I'm a person who's gonna step up,
Yeah.
then I started sending food down to their house.
Hmm.
Then I start making phone calls so these kids
Hmm.
to get coats
Yeah.
and shoes.
Yeah.
So we have to think about these things when we're talking about children. Children's
Yeah.
voices are important. And I
Yeah.
want us to understand this. What you pour into them impacts their life
Yeah.
for the rest of their lives. They
Yeah.
need that confidence. They need that self-esteem. They
Hmm.
need that affirmation and that
Hmm.
encouragement. They need that
Hmm.
guidance. So just saying anything and everything to them is
Hmm.
just not acceptable.
Yep.
And I pray and I hope
Hmm.
that this conversation resonates. And
Yeah.
before we do the things and say the things to these kids, that we'll take a step back
Yeah.
before we proceed forward
Yep. I agree. I definitely agree. And
because it's hard.
it is. And, like you said, kids, they know when somebody's genuine with them and they know when somebody's not. And so, my kids or different kids, can work, different nerves all day long. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to greet my kids with a smile. I'm always going to say, okay, you know what? Go be great. Have a great day. I'll see you in the morning. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have to still let kids know you still care.
Exactly.
So they can just know, you know what? I want them to look forward to coming back every single day. I want them
Right.
to look forward to saying, you know what? I know that when I go see Miss Cece, she gonna greet me with a smile. She gonna give me a hug. She gonna make sure I'm okay. She gonna
Mm-hmm.
make sure I have my homework done. Stuff like that. You want to leave a good impact on children when they get into your presence, when they leave your presence.
It makes a
So,
world of difference. It
yep,
really does. And I think this conversation was really needed because we don't have these types of conversation, but
yeah,
we need to have these types of conversation.
yeah,
And even if you know individuals in your surroundings, because
mm-hmm.
every teacher don't have the heart for the kids,
Yeah,
for their
yeah,
profession. They're just in it
yeah,
for the check.
yeah,
That's pretty much it.
yeah,
And so I say, like my parents used to do pop-ups. Do
yeah,
pop-ups in the school. Ain't nothing wrong with doing a pop-up every now and then on your kids. You
yeah,
need to not let your kids be locked in these rooms. with
Yeah.
these computers and not knowing what they are doing. You need to make sure as parents or guardians that you stay up on the latest social media trends.
Yeah.
You
True.
need to make sure you stay up on all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
and do something together with your kids.
Yeah.
Create that bond, create
Yes.
that safe space that whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that child is dealing with, they can rest assured that they feel safe when they come to you for something. Whether you be the
Yep.
mother, the auntie, the grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be, all kids need a safe place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
They need a
I
safe
agree.
place.
I
And so
agree.
it's definitely necessary. It's
Mm-hmm.
so necessary. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we forget this. And I'm not saying this is all parents because it's not. But we need to break the cycle. We need
Yeah.
to break the cycle.
Definitely. That's true.
And it's time to break the cycle. It's time to talk about things that's uncomfortable to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
children are our future.
Yep.
They are our future. And if you don't mold them and you don't put the necessary tools they need in them now,
Mm-hmm.
some of them won't survive. And
Yeah.
hence
That.
why, whether people realize it or not, there is a high rate of young suicide.
Yeah. It is. It's very high.
Kids commit
Yeah.
suicide because of the pressures they have to deal with that their parents don't have no idea.
Yeah.
And you think it's just all about going to school. That's a small portion of it that
Mm-hmm.
they're dealing with, just going to
Mm-hmm.
school. And then we so busy in our lives doing working and making ends meet and keeping a roof over their head and feeding them, we forget about the care of the child.
Yep.
Not just physically, but emotionally as well. That is
Mm-hmm.
so important.
Yep.
We have to care about their emotional well-being. It is important because
Yep.
there is children that's sitting right now. And I'm not talking about teenagers. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
8-year-olds. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
6-year-olds, 5-year-olds committing
Mm-hmm.
suicide because they don't want to deal with the pressures that they're dealing with. I
Right.
want us to understand this. This
Yeah.
is serious. It's really
Absolutely.
serious. And we need to take a look. Don't negate the child. Pull some children in. For those
Yeah.
mothers, those aunties and grandma who have that nurturing heart, take a child in. All they want, most children, is somebody to care.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all. They
Yep.
just want somebody to love them genuinely.
Mm-hmm.
And love will conquer so much. It will. If you show them that you genuinely care and you still can discipline them. And
Mm-hmm.
those children welcome the discipline because when you discipline, you show them that you care.
Yeah, that you're paying attention.
So don't think that because now let me explain something because me and Courtney had this conversation.
Yeah.
There's difference between discipline and
Mm-hmm.
abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm talking about sticks, mop
Mm-hmm.
sticks, hitting them with your shoe and then cussing them out at the same time. No, that's abuse.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about discipline. And
Mm-hmm.
then talk to them and explain to them the reasons why.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
appreciate you all the more. That's all I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying.
Yep.
Okay. Is there
I
anything you
agree.
want to add, Courtney?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to encourage us. Um, we need to do better, especially as a race of people. I'm just
Yes.
saying, our kids are impacted the most.
Yeah.
They are so impacted with the
Yep.
things that go on, not just in households, but in the schools as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I'm just saying, let's be more loving. Let's be more caring and concerned for our children. Their voice is
Matters.
important.
Yep.
Please understand. Don't shun
Yep.
no more kids away. Listen to them. It
Mm-hmm.
costs you nothing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yep.
right. So I do
Absolutely.
thank you all for attending into this live stream, but I'm gonna figure out how to block some people because I saw some nasty comments in here that I was not appreciative of. And so I'm going to say this: if you can't be on here and be respectful, please don't get on this live stream. Not at all, because I don't have no problem with blocking people. And you would want somebody to respect you, so we expect the same thing in return. Be respectful. Okay, so Courtney, I thank you for providing your
Well, thank
insight,
you for thinking
and
about
I
me.
hope that we've gotten some out of this conversation. And please share the social media outlets. Check out the To a Woman's Heart website. Leave your comments, leave your suggestions. Just to let you know, I'm getting ready to start um, pushing women forward on Tuesdays at 7:30, highlighting women in business. That's going to be the first thing we're going to do. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to be doing a 6-part series for women. All right. So make sure you share, tune in. Again, Courtney, thank you. I
Thank
love
you.
you.
No
I'm
problem. I
proud
love you
of
too.
you. I
Thank you. I
appreciate
appreciate
your
that.
heart for your kids. You
Thank
keep on doing
you.
a good job and don't let nobody deter you from what you're doing, because those kids appreciate you. And that will probably be the only love that some of them kids will ever receive in life. And
Well,
that
thank
will
you.
alone will carry them a long way.
Thank
Okay?
you. I appreciate that.
All right, y'all.
All
So
right.
thank y'all for tuning in. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one.